This is the Freedom Academy, and I'm Hans Lysglimt. I want to suggest a hobby for you. This is just an idea for a hobby and a way to think about a hobby. And if you are a Ron Paul supporter, you will know that the late 19th century, the 1860s, 70s, 80s, 90s, was a pinnacle of intellectual and free thought in the world. And it was a time when laissez-faire capitalism really was at its peak. And a lot of the foundation for the wealth and the amazing things that we have today were laid back then. And people thought differently, and people were very much aware of the dangers of big government. The Civil War in the U.S. really was all about that. People knew about gold and inflation and how to restrain the government by using gold instead of paper money. There were so many things in that society. It really was the sense of life that people had back then was very different from what we have now. Now, my suggestion or idea for a hobby is to focus on that period of time. And that's what I find myself doing. And I want you to consider this. Everything that's being created today in art, in music, even in industrial things, is a reflection of our time. And our time really is mostly about technology, the age of the engineer and information technology. And if you look at it, a lot of, the art of today is not beautiful. It's if you look at modern art, it's actually mostly crap. It's a reflection of our time. That is, our time is amazing when it comes to technology and the things that we have around us and the things that we have achieved through engineering and technology. But when it comes to the really important things like personal liberty and a society restrained by the government, our time is actually not very good. So there are a lot of things with our day and age that are not very impressive if you look at it from a historical perspective. And art and the things that we produce now, they really reflect our the good sides and the bad sides, and maybe mostly the bad sides, because if you look at the art, it's really terrible. My personal preferences are for 19th century art. Romanticism is my preferred art form. And I want you to consider how every age produces art that reflects how people think in that age. So our age produces art that's not very good. It's mostly crap, especially modern art. Look at the museums for modern art. They're filled with crap, really. So you want to work with art that's from a better time. And I want to suggest that this process of art reflecting the times also works in the reverse. So that if you admire a piece of art, a modern art piece from today, you're admiring crap, and it craps your mind. It's a feedback mechanism that's negative, that's not enforcing the good things about yourself. But if you look at a great art piece from the late 19th century, a romantic art, wonderful art, beautiful art of men and people and the world painted or created out of better ideas, a better sense of life. That works in the reverse. So if you spend time watching fine art, great art, it makes you better. So if you want to collect something, if you want to have a hobby, then focus on good times in history. And it doesn't necessarily have to be expensive. If you buy fine art from the late 19th century, original pieces, that's kind of expensive, but it doesn't have to be, because there are things that are not very expensive. You can go to a a antique dealer and get pieces from the late 19th century for $10 that have this intrinsic value in it, and you can buy reproductions and focus on that. One of the things I collect is 19th century Norwegian silver, because I find that a lot of those values that I cherish are in those things. And I like to go to fine art museums to watch art from that period, because it reinforces the good things in me. So consider that. Consider focusing on that as almost like a hobby, you know, as something good in your life, to focus on the art and the manifestations of the late 19th century, even in industrial things and in products and in buildings and architecture, anything. Be aware of that and go into a positively reinforcing modus when it comes to these things from the late 19th century. That's a suggestion. You're watching Freedom Academy. I'm Hans Lysglimt.